these little placards, little signs. Over the years, since 2002, different people started to notice different anomalies about the September 11th story. That's what these are. See, this is this motivation for you to go home and say, boy, I wonder if those guys are crazy or they're right.
That was it?
All right. So, our goal here, making no money, giving the $20 out of our pocket to print the billboards and make the flyers and hand out. Because some of us have read one too many books, perhaps, interviewed one too many people, watched maybe one too many documentaries, one too many to swallow the official story as given to us without questioning. We've seen them change their story not once, not twice, but 3 times when it comes to explaining how these buildings came to the ground. We've seen mechanisms, $4 trillion air defense systems that acted and operated just fine through procedure in 2000 that failed 4 times on September 11, 2001. So what we're comparing here is facts. See, me, I'm a little bit perturbed, and I don't just buy everything that's handed to me. So when I found out, for example, that when real planes are striking real buildings here in New York City, they tell me that it's a coincidence that the government was running military exercises on the morning of September 11th, 3 of them, Operation Noble Vigilance, where they were actually confusing air traffic controllers, both on their screens, right, as well as in their ears. So much so that in 2007, NORAD, an air traffic control, released all 190 hours of their tapes for 4 days. And on those tapes, it's revealed they can't differentiate between real hijacked aircraft and military simulations. You see, stuff like that provides an excuse as a coincidence. But once you get so many different coincidences, what we do is we call that circumstantial evidence in the court of law. Okay? So that meant I'm talking about aliens. See, any of us can tune into this in Hollywood or TV or anything else and learn about aliens all day long, whether they exist or not. You can ask the question just as you can ask whether God exists or not all day long. And you can commit yourself to that investigation forever. However, this year, we can come to a finite conclusion if we only enter the debate. So, the #1 most popular radio show in America talks about aliens tonight. See, we don't. See, we're a minority. See, we don't talk about what's popular because that doesn't help us protect this country. See, there's some of us that say, oh, you know what, America used to be good, but now it's not so good. And they say, how did that happen? Well, they stopped following the Constitution, corrupt people got in the government, and all the people started tuned out. Well, how else did it happen? Well, it seems as if the same 5 guys bought all the newspapers, all the TV channels, all the radio stations, and we're living under a world where we have this illusion of choice, and everything's owned by the same interests.
If by aliens you mean the U.S. government funding Al-Qaeda, yeah, it was aliens. Just like they just funded the Taliban. Not a conspiracy theory. Look it up. Here's some reading. Turn on the TV for once in a while.
This isn't an insult that any of us, man, I like watching a Family Guy. Heck, I like let's watch Bill O'Reilly just to get irritated and kick the TV off. But, you know, there is an imperative need. Once you realize that you've been deceived, whether it's through reading a book or having a conversation with someone, that you speak up, because silence is a betrayal at some point. Oh, yeah. And there's a word in the United States.
Do I really have to pull out the audio right now?
Years, it's called treason. See, what we have is treasonous individuals that are masquerading as politicians and journalists. This is the problem. Meanwhile, you and I are left to stumble around thinking that these guys are doing their jobs. We don't got to do it. We let them do the thinking for us. But my God, for the first time in my life, I finally check what they're saying. I find inconsistencies up the wazoo. Sure, it helps to know that there's 4 billion people along with me that believe the same thing that I do. But nonetheless, I did the investigation for myself. That doesn't mean I'm right. That doesn't mean that they're right. What it means is that I became aware of another story than the official story. I just said, my God, that can't be possible. I'm going to invest some time to prove that people like myself are wrong. So that's the goal. The goal is caring. It's recognizing an imminent threat to you and your family. Not 20 years down the road, not 100 years when you're in the freaking graves and worms are growing on you, but now, today. See, a lot of people think that circumstantial evidence isn't enough. People have been convicted for murder on less than what we have here on September 11th. I'm no attorney. I'm a computer programmer. I write 4 different languages. I don't even consider myself a smart guy. However, all it took for me was watching a documentary. And since that day, I said, I don't believe this. So I went and I met the people that make the documentary. I met the people that interview. I met firefighters and first responders. And this guy, Willie Rodriguez, that was a janitor, 17 years in the World Trade Center. Hey, and you know what? There's more than one guy. I found out that saying, hey, you know what? There were explosions in Tower 1 before the planes hit the tower. You knew? Oh, wow, interesting. What's his name? Willie Rodriguez. How do I trust him? Well, he testified at the 9/11 Commission hearing. His friend Felipe lost his skin. See, what it is analyzing the data and the facts that was brought to the commission and the data and facts that was completely omitted and ignored from the official report. See, a lot of people, because we're immersed in a conspiracy world with lots of television shows focused on conspiracy, lots of fun Dan Brown novels, that we can never admit or never possibly conceive that 2 people might get together to plot something for their interest. Whether that's to ignore the signs that September 11th is going to take place, or whether that's to actually execute and carry out the events themselves, we live in a fictional world where none of this is possible. Because everything that could be is only demonstrated on that flickering TV screen. Or written in size 8 font in the book. You gotta start thinking like a politician does. Start thinking like a Warren Buffett, who actually owns currency. People who have no desire to make money, only to retain and upgrade their power control systems from version 3 to version 4 to version 5. And so on. See, so studying September 11th is nothing more than becoming acquainted with not just one deception, but be acquainted with an environment that preys off of your ignorance. So, Willie Rodriguez, I'll tell you a small 3-minute story. Someone who I've met, I don't think is a pathological liar. See pictures shaking George Bush's hand, used as an icon of patriotism for 3 months following September 11th. And Willie Rodriguez is working in North Tower as he had for 17 years. And in the morning of 9/11, an explosion takes place in the basement, sub-level B. His friend Felipe B comes out of the boiler room, skin falling off of his body. 7 seconds later, Willie counts, he hears an explosion at the top of the building. So, an explosion just taking place in the basement. 5 to 7 seconds later, the plane's ruptured on top. Do we believe Willie Rodriguez? That's the question. Willie Rodriguez went to the commission, told his story. Guess what? Who corroborates Willie Rodriguez's testimony? Oh my God, a guy by the name of John Schroeder, the first man into the North Tower, the first firefighter into the building. Guess what? Willie Rodriguez saved his life with the master key and 4 others. See, so it's all about what's omitted. Now you can take that one fact and spend 10 minutes investigating at home. Maybe you'll say, Willie Rodriguez is a liar. He wants to make money off of 9/11. He is making up this whole story so he can travel around Europe and be rich and extravagant. Or you can think that he might be telling the truth and continue your investigation. See, maybe you've got an engineer or an architect in your family or something, you know? You can't trust these 1,400 engineers and architects in this guild that signed their name and reputation away, saying that they don't believe towers 1, 2, and 7 came to the ground without some sort of incendiary devices. Because of the speed of which they came to the ground, they say it defied physics. Well, you could be curious about that statement, or not. But if you are, this building that used to stand here, they rebuilt a year and a half after 9/11. This is the tip of the iceberg for you. Huh. The building that collapsed at near Free Fall Speeds on 9/11 that most people never heard about, 47-story skyscraper, 300 yards away from the World Trade Center, never hit by a plane, it collapsed in the same manner. Huh. Now NIST, the authority that was responsible for explaining how towers 1 and 2 started to implode, not how they actually came to the ground, and how the implosion initiated, took them about 4 years to give us an explanation of how building number 7 came to the ground. And 3 times they changed their story. Well, the last of which they said, even the most likely reason for collapse is unprobable. So, drawing our attention on World Trade Center number 7, shows modes like construction workers, and first responders, and architects, and engineers, and NYU professors, and computer programmer idiots like myself said, my God, that just doesn't make sense. 1 and 2, maybe, I don't know. You know, planes hit it, God, I don't know, buildings come to the ground. But 7, that doesn't make any sense. Allow that to be your gateway, your entry point. Somewhere over here, one of these placards. Well, maybe you just don't like the idea that, maybe you just don't like Republicans at that time. And, you know, George Bush and Dick Cheney are creepy little evil characters reminiscent of some weird movie we've all seen. Maybe we just want to point the fingers at them. Or maybe we find it curious that they refused to testify to the 9/11 Commission. Maybe they didn't even want a commission hearing. How about you find out that it took 4 people, 4 wives that lost their husbands in New Jersey, firefighters in the towers, they actually get the commission rolling. It took them forming a family steering committee in order to sign a petition to get the investigation rolling. What if we find out that they're holding little signs themselves, the family members inside the commission hearing saying, lies, lies. What if we find out that they had a problem with the way the commission was put together? The government wanted to put Henry Kissinger as the executive director. Great. Well, the victim family member said, no way! We actually care about finding out what happened here. We don't want this master of cover-ups, master of puppets to run the show. So they did something and he went away. Only to be replaced by wonderful Mr. Philip Zelikow, co-writer of Condoleezza's book. So, here we find it curious that Dick Cheney, Condoleezza, and George Bush refused for 3 months to testify to the commission, and then when they finally did, they did so not under oath, together in the same room, unrecorded, with no transcript. Now, what if you actually go home and validate that, and you find that out to be the case? Does that mean that 9/11 is at least what we say it is? Absolutely not. But it's one more nail in the possible coffin. See, I can't do the homework for you. I can't do it. If I had a jumbo screen here, 300 inches wide, you probably wouldn't watch it for 2 hours. And then at the end, you'd say, oh, he only made that to make a buck. You gotta actually care. You gotta find out whether or not there's precedent for what we're talking about in history. Whether it's possible or not. Because there are so many people in this country that believe that we're saying is accurate, and guess what? There's congressmen that say what we say. Did you know it? There's people who ran for president in 07. The primaries for 08. Ron Paul, Des Kucinich, Mike Gravel. Senators and a congressman that say when he had a 9/11 investigation, these guys are total whitewash, just like Watergate. Right? So, since maybe we don't want to do the homework ourselves, maybe we'll start deferring to those who did the homework. Look at the list of names. Former CIA director, former Black Ops, former CIA, former air traffic controller. Celebrities go on. Maybe let the opinion of others weight your judgment as to whether or not you should investigate. People don't do this for their health. People don't love to theorize all day long about what possibly happened. I hate it. The most difficult thing for me is to come here and not be able to tell you exactly what happened. Not be able to tell you exactly who did it. just be able to give you a vague notion that we've been deceived and lied to and hope that you come to the same conclusion on your own. It's difficult when whistleblowers get fired. You know, it used to be they'd be rewarded. Someone caught on to something, corruption in high levels of government, they'd be on the front page of the New York Times.
Especially the collapse of Building 7. Building 7 was smoking gun.
And nowadays, if they're on the back page, you're lucky. And if they're still employed 6 months later, my God, that is a supreme thing too. But yet we still got them. They're still coming out there, you know? People that add to the story little by little. How about Operation Able Danger? Well, I found out in '99 that they had a whole... They were following these terrorists. They had 4 of them identified. Operation Able Danger. Go Google that one. Lieutenant, what's his name?
Anthony Schaefer, a lieutenant colonel in the Army.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer.
He wrote a book recently, and it was redacted in many regards.
These whistleblowers have so far yet to be burned upside down at the stake.
You look at the skyline of the city.
What we have, little by little by little, is people that are standing up and they're standing firm and saying, I don't care what people think about me. I'm going to tell them what I know and let them do with it what they will. And that's what we got. We took all the facts that we had and we lined them up here around the World Trade Center. I wouldn't have enough floor strips. A lot of people, they don't consider the internet a library. No, the internet is just blogs and website of bloggers. Well, unfortunately, when's the last time you went to the library? I got $30 in fines last week because I had 11 books overdue for 14 days. But so much of us are online, we got no excuse than to read. If you don't want to read someone's blog, fine.
And government websites are there. The government websites are there. They have records there if we look for them.
The biggest things are when the government admits it and we don't even look at the document itself.
3 months later,
like the Gulf of Tonkin, precipitating event to enter Vietnam. The government 30 years later says, oh yeah, it never happened, sorry. We lied! They now call it a false flag attack. Oh wow. So is there precedent in history? Do we ever want to look at a motive, see who has the benefit? Or are we just going to buy this story of Islamic fundamentalists that want to kill us for our freedom? I don't care whether you start investigating and start to lean towards, well, maybe they let it happen on purpose. Or you go to the extreme and you say, well, maybe they executed it for their own reasons. To be aware that there's a debate, to tune in every once in a while, is enough to form your own opinion, for or against us. Just realize it. As you opt out of this little investigation here, more and more people are opting in. BBC documentaries, National Geographic. There's 8 different documentaries that have been created over the past 4 years. Their sole purpose is to debunk everything we say. So it's interesting. It's interesting to know that this is important. This is gaining momentum. The people are finally starting to realize that the policies of the executive branch, whether it's a Republican president, a white president, a Democratic president, a black president, are passed from back to forth, back and forth, back and forth. The same foreign policy, the same progression. So what is our goal? Is our goal to say, oh, America's evil, America's bad? Surely not. It's to recognize the roots of this country and at what point we went astray. That's it. We go back in time. Then we start to think to yourself, well, when did I become such a slob? Was I born this way? Was I always willing to have someone else run my life for me and do all the thinking? The people that created this country, they were more paranoid than I could ever possibly have been, having escaped what they did to come to this continent. These people knew the tyranny of Rome. They knew the tyranny of Great Britain. They knew the tyranny of bankers. See that? that forewarning that we were given by these people called founding fathers, telling us what to avoid, is exactly what has happened. We haven't listened to any of their warnings. We find ourselves today free and carefree to give up our liberties, to sign away our rights because they're selectively enforced by the Patriot Act under the guise of protecting our freedoms. Yet little by little they're building a wall around us. They say to keep Paris out. But what are we going to do in 10 years when we find this virtual wall is there to keep us in? There's a lot of people that write books like this, New York Times bestsellers. The problem is they end up making a little bit of a profit. So at the end of the day, we say, well, that's why he wrote that book, is to make a profit. Yeah, let this idea of justifying what we don't want to believe persuade us to not research it to an undeniable conclusion. You know, this isn't your 4th grade homework assignment. I'm not playing with my nephews adding 2 plus 2 and spelling the word dog. It's pretty easy to go home, watch a few documentaries, have it sink in, and then say, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, I'm going to look into this myself and find out where you go. What you're going to find is 9/11 is so old now, I don't want to talk about it. So much has happened since 9/11, the progression, the cause, the effect. That 9/11 is, I can understand some people's argument to say, no way, I don't want to hear this anymore. We got so many other problems. But it is a root. It's constantly the excuse. Every 5 minutes at the bottom of CNN, the news ticker, 9/11 something.
We got to invade
9/11 this, 9/11 that. We got to do this because of 9/11. Someone's trying to kill us, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. Rudy Giuliani used the word 9/11 15 billion times in the presidential campaign last season. 9/11 is the excuse for everything, so you better know the story. At least I would hope that you care to. See, all of us, literally, I don't think any of us have faith in any politician. We know what corruption is. We see it portrayed on TV and movies, and we see it in everyday life. But do we understand how these people live their lives and how it reflects on us? I sure the heck did it. I had no idea that any human being would be capable of doing what some of these politicians do. Because I'm not like that. I'm not some crazy sociopath, and neither are many of you. So, you gotta acquaint yourself with these people that call themselves the rulers of the world. Those people that got so much money that all they do is spend their time thinking about how to maintain their control grid. See, I'm going to teach my kids how to program in C++. George Bush is going to teach his kids how to control society with all the technology that's available and with the environmental factors that exist today. See, I respect computers. These guys respect raw power. So, when politicians come and say that 9/11 is blowback, you know, that unintended consequences for our foreign policy, that's darn well true. You can't argue with that. See, when our CIA goes into another country and stages a coup, right, and that's revealed 10 years later that they were participating in it, people of that country find out and get teed off, man. When you wage warfare and division within countries like we're doing in Pakistan and Libya, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, everywhere that we go, until one day I find their labels in the back of my t-shirt, they get ticked off. They say, your foreign policy, you felt the need to come here and subvert my nation's sovereignty. How dare you? And yeah, some terrorists end up developing, and I don't defend them. But you better, I want to say better, it's very important to differentiate emotional reactionary terrorists. Strap bonds on themselves and walk in the buildings from these state-sponsored, unbelievable menaces that we call Al-Qaeda. Because they're being used right now in Libya. In your newspapers, the government admits they're using Al-Qaeda in Libya. It makes no sense. It's in public view, in plain sight.
We just gave them a home base with gold. Now they can buy whatever they want. All thanks to the U.S. government. They did a great job.
See, people tell us we should come out there and dress in suits if you want us to get through to people. You should comb your hair and shave your beard and not look like a bum if you want to get this through to individuals. We've got to stop relying on these people in suits to do the thinking for us.
We got to think for ourselves.
Community and doing the research to high fine that's necessary to put these criminals in prison. There is a minority in this country. It is more than enough. 3 million people. Just on our little mailing list of which we have connections to. The amount of people that are aware of this information can be misguided at any point. You hear the word domestic terrorism coming about? They're saying the white Al-Qaeda. Guess who's the white Al-Qaeda? Me! Gabe with his little weird patriot hat. See, we've got to be afraid when the ammunition starts to get pointed on ourselves. See, the whistleblowers, what they would be called patriots back in the day in the 1700s, they are now demonized as being terrorists by going into history and saying, well, this is where you went left here, you should have went right. And we think this guy convinced you to go left, and it doesn't, this guy was working for this guy. See, you've got to be willing to put together for yourself an accurate composite of how politics works in the United States and all across the globe. The deals that are made, the concessions that take place by lobbyists. Just imagine what happens next week if you win the lottery. Your life's going to change a lot. You know, if you had someone threaten you and say, I'm going to take away your $300,000 a week payment a year afterwards, what would you do to keep that money?
Whatever it takes.
The love of money is the root of all evil, is what they say in the Bible. And I really do believe that's true, because the lengths of which these individuals have gone to in order to own a currency, not have money, but own a currency. That's the story of the Federal Reserve Bank. It's incredible.